Alright, we are here in beautiful sunny Florida, and today, people, we are breaking down Bellator 163, Liam McGeary versus Phil Davis for the Bellator 205-pound title. That's just an awesome matchup, man. I mean, two top 10 light heavyweights in the world, in my opinion. Just one of the best matchups you can make outside of the UFC, man. And, obviously, we are coming with the headphones today, man. I pulled these fuckers out of the closet, tested them out, and sure enough, they sound pretty good. The video, I'm still trying to figure this all out. I probably don't look the best right now, but it is what it is. We're working things out. This is my 10th video, so I figured I'd come in hot with a improvement production-wise, but nonetheless, we are here. Quick note: this Bellator 163. This is not this Friday. This is not tomorrow, the 28th. This is November 4th, next Friday. The reason this is a little early is because next week I wanted to have my Dos Anjos Ferguson fight night breakdown, and then this week I wanted to have my Bellator breakdown. And there's no card this week. There's an RFA tomorrow night, but it was a relatively weak card. I passed on breaking that down. There was like two fighters on there that I knew. And, last thing, thank you so much. Since my last video, I've gained about 15 or 16 subscribers. My viewership has gone up, so thank you so much to all you fucking savages. I appreciate that very much. It gives me motivation to keep doing this, to improve it, obviously. So, thank you very much, and let's get into this breakdown. So, the prelims, they're a little lackluster. There's a lot of bad fights on here, but there is some stuff that is can't miss. So I'm going to try to run down the bad fights as fast as possible. I don't want this to be some kind of 23-minute video. But first up, man, we got 4-0 Nyman Gracie taking on Rudy Bear, 16-14 at 170 pounds. So if you don't know, Nyman Gracie is a member of the famous, just infamous Gracie Jiu-Jitsu family, and I think he's Henzo's nephew or Henzo's son, but he's looking good, man. He's 4-0. He's got 2 wins in WSOF. He's got 2 wins in Bellator. He's got 3 submissions, and Rudy Bears, he's a 500 fighter, and he's been subbed 7 times. So, sure, Rudy Bears might be the more well-rounded fighter, the more experienced fighter, but I just think that as soon as Nyman Gracie gets on the ground, it's only a matter of time before he takes home one of Bear's limbs home with him. So the pick is Nyman Gracie, first round sub. Next up, Tyrell Fortune, 0-0, taking on Cody Miskell, 0-0. If you don't know, Tyrell Fortune is an NCAA champion wrestler. He's a big, fast, athletic, aggressive, powerful heavyweight, and he's been training at the Blackzilians these last 2 or 3 years, so he's ready for this moment. And Cody Miskell, he went 5-2 as an amateur, but he's just the opposite of Fortune, man. He's slow and out of shape, and really it's only a matter of time before Tyrell Fortune gets him down and pounds him out. So my pick is Tyrell Fortune, first round TKO. Next up, another NCAA champion making his debut in MMA, Ed Ruth, 3-time NCAA champion who has been training at Jackson's the last 2 or 3 years, 0-0, taking on Mark Mangiardi, also 0-0. So, man, Ed Ruth, like I said, training at Jackson's these last 2 or 3 years, he's ready, man. Mark Mangiardi, he went 2-3 as an amateur, and he lost his last 3 straight, 2 of them being by submission. So, not much to say here, but I am going to go with an Ed Ruth first-round submission. I just don't see Mangiardi stuffing the takedowns from the 3-time NCAA champion. So the pick is Ruth. And next up, we got interesting fight here, man. James Boran, 6-0, taking on Vinicius de Jesus, 4-1 at 170 pounds. And that Ruth fight is at 185, by the way. I forgot to say that. But James Boran, he's 6-0. He's a really big, tall striker. He's huge for 170, man. But the only knock I have on him is he hasn't fought in 6 years. And I don't know why. It's extremely unfortunate because, man, he looked good in his last few fights. I don't know why he took off the layoff. I mean, I tried to do my research, but I couldn't figure it out. I don't know if he's just had other life stuff going on, but man, did he look good. Vinicius de Jesus, he's nothing special. He's just your average fighter. But the thing is, he's 4-1, but the combined record of the 4 guys he beat is 0-9. So, you know what? Despite the layoff, I am going to go with James Boran via a second round TKO here. And next up, there's a string of pretty bad fights here, so I'm going to just run through these and get my picks out quick as possible. Tom English, 6-6, taking on Chris Foster, 9-5 at 145 pounds. I'm going to go with Chris Foster. Tom English, he's 6-6, and he's also 41 years old. Chris Foster, 9-5. At least he's young. He's got speed and athleticism behind him. So I'm going to go with a Chris Foster 30-27 decision. And next up is Keenan Raymond, 3-3, taking on Castriot Xhema, 0-0. So Castriot Xhema is an interesting guy. He was in prison for a couple years, I believe due to assault. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong, but from what I saw, that's why. But, he got out, he changed his life around, he went to a kickboxing gym, became a kickboxer, and developed a pretty decent striking game. And, Keenan Raymond, he's a 3-3 fighter. He hasn't impressed me at all, so I'm just going to go with Castriot Xhema here via a first-round KO. He's also the hometown guy, too. This is in Uncasville, Connecticut, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But next up is Sarah Payant, 1-3, taking on Hannah Regina, 0-0. So at 125 pounds. Sarah Payant, she's 1-3, but she did go 5-5 as an amateur, and she has some decent wins on her amateur record. She has 2 wins over girls that are actually fighting in Invicta right now, Sarah Click and Sharon Jacobson, and both those girls are good, especially Sharon Jacobson. She's a beast. And Hannah Regina, she's 0-0, and I also couldn't find any amateur experience on her whatsoever. I believe this is her very first competition. So I'm just going to go with Sarah Payant, just based on the experience. I'm going to go with Sarah Payant, first round submission is the pick. Next up is Ayala Kotau, taking on Carlos Correia. Kotau 1-1, Correia 1-0. This is at 170 pounds. I'm going to go with Carlos Correia here. Both these guys are grapplers, but Carlos Correia is the bigger, stronger, more athletic, younger, just better fighter in my opinion. So I am going to go with Carlos Correia via a second round submission. And next up, this is actually a decent fight here. I like this fight. Mike Zichelle taking on Tim Caron. Mike Zichelle 8-4, Tim Caron 6-0 at 185 pounds. So this is a good fight, like I said. Zichelle, he's 8-4. He should be better than that, though. He's a great striker with big power. But if he worked on some other things in his game, he could be a great fighter, man. But the thing is, all he likes to do is go in there and strike. And, you can't really blame him. He's got big power, and he's a good striker. But I just feel like Tim Caron is the more well-rounded fighter here. I think he's going to be able to avoid the big knockout punch. I think he's going to be able to mix up his wrestling and his submission game. I do have Tim Caron via a 29-28 decision here. I think it's either going to be a Tim Caron decision or a Mike Zichelle KO, and I am going to go with Tim Caron 29-28 decision, but not confident in that pick at all. So next up we got Blair Tugman, 8-6, taking on Walter Smith-Cotito, 4-4 at 145 pounds. So Smith-Cotito really doesn't impress me at all, man. He's a striker, but even when it comes to his striking, there's much to be desired, man. He is not very active at all. He's too patient. He gives fights away. And Blair Tugman, he's 8-6, but he's a pretty good 8-6. He's very well-rounded. I think he's going to be able to mix his game up, and he's going to be the more active striker when it's actually in the striking department. So I'm going to go with Blair Tugman via a second-round submission there, but, anything can happen. Next up, the final fight on the prelims here. Josh Diekmann, 15-7, taking on Tyler King, 11-4 at a heavyweight bout. So these guys actually fought before. Tyler King won a unanimous decision. I'm actually a big fan of Tyler King. I've been watching him for a while. I believe he was in Titan or WSOF, one of the two. But I'm a big fan of heavyweights that have a good submission game behind them. I've always been a fan of those guys that have good submission games. Gabriel Gonzaga, Frank Mir, Fabricio Verdum. I'm not saying Tyler King is those guys, but he does have a very crafty submission game behind him. But Josh Diekmann, he just likes to go in there and throw and take dudes' heads off. And Tyler King, he has been knocked out a few times, but not lately, man. He's been looking good. So I am going to go with Tyler King to repeat history here with a 30-27 decision for Tyler King. That is the pick. So moving on to the main card. This is where I will be giving my gamble guide. I did that for the last Bellator I did. I just did the main card for the gamble guide, and they actually came out with some odds for some prelim fights, and I wasn't expecting that. But I don't think they'll do that here, man. The prelims for this card are not as good as the prelims for the last Bellator. So the gamble guide will just be for the main card here, but kicking off the main card, we got the returning to America, Sergey Kharitonov, 23-5, taking on Javi Ayala, 9-5, man, at heavyweight, of course. I'm a huge fan of Sergey Kharitonov. I have been for a very long time. I love that guy, man. He's just an absolute wizard when it comes to striking, and I'm very happy to see him back in a big American promotion such as Bellator. He hasn't fought in America since the Strikeforce days in 2011, and it's funny, that's actually his last loss, was 2011 in Strikeforce against Josh Barnett via submission. He's won all his fights in Russia since then, and he hasn't been fighting just cans. He's been fighting guys that are, pretty decent. Javi Ayala, he gets knocked out a lot. It's funny, he got knocked out by Carl Sayumanatafa twice. And, Sayumanatafa isn't the technical guy that Kharitonov. Sayumanatafa just goes in there and throws bombs, and he happened to land twice on Javi. So, I don't know what a guy like Sergey with elite striking behind his game, I don't know what he's going to do to Javi. He might just go out there and completely blast him. But, Javi's got the age advantage. He might have the speed advantage, maybe even the chin advantage. Ground game could be close, but I'm going to go with Sergey here via first round KO. I just think his striking is going to be too much. And when it comes to betting, this is heavyweight, so it's hard to bet on Sergey here, but the only bet I would consider here is does not go the distance, maybe even the under here. I just think there's no way this fight's going to go the distance. Somebody's getting put away via it's on the feet or on the ground. Another thing to note, Sergey does have a good submission game, but Sergey first round KO is the pick. And next up, Paul Daley, the Semtex, 38-14, taking on Derek Anderson, 14-2. This is easily the second best fight on the card, in my opinion. Paul Daley, we know what we're getting out of him, man. The experienced, lethal, powerful striker that he is. Been in wars with the very best guys in the game, Nick Diaz fight will always forever be one of my, top 15 fights ever. That round one will forever be in my top 5 favorite rounds, most likely. But Derek Anderson, man, he is a guy that has caught my eye for a very long time. I'm very impressed with this young kid. He's very well rounded. He's got a good wrestling game. He's got very good kicks, and I think that's where he could give Paul Daley some trouble, man. I think Paul Daley is going to be the favorite here, but I think Derek Anderson, if he mixes up the kicks and uses his wrestling and just is patient with Daley and doesn't get too sloppy and caught, I think Derek Anderson can win this. But a Paul Daley KO would not surprise me at all. He's just so lethal, and this is also Derek Anderson's first fight at 170. So I think Paul Daley is going to be the favorite here, but I will go with Derek Anderson for the upset. I will pick Derek Anderson via a 29-28 decision. And when it comes to betting, if you can get good dog money on Derek Anderson, like plus 140, 150 and higher, I would absolutely take a stab at that. Other than that, I wouldn't really make a bet on this fight. I could see it going to decision. I could see it ending in the distance. Paul Daley, he is a little tough to bet on at his age. But yeah, man, I will go with Derek Anderson. And next up is Marloes Coenen, 23-7, taking on Talita Nogueira, 6-0 at 145 pounds. Man, Marloes Coenen, an absolute legend of women's MMA, man. Pioneer. She's a beast, man. She's fought a who's who, but she is on a decline lately. She got submitted against Alexis Dufresne in her last fight, and I'm not going to lie, man, I lost 2.5 units on Marloes. I really thought she was going to go in there and pretty much just wrap Alexis up and submit her in the first round, but Alexis did that to her. And if you do not know, Talita Nogueira is the 2011 Women's Black Belt World Champion in Jiu-Jitsu. Just the most world-class competition there is for Jiu-Jitsu, and she was the very best that year. I really can't. It's hard for me to think of a girl who has higher level jiu-jitsu than her in MMA. I mean, you got to think of her, Mackenzie Dern, Gabby Garcia. I mean, even girls like Amanda Nunes and Claudia Gadelia, they're black belts. They can't sniff Talita Nogueira. She's very high level. The only thing is, she is 6-0, but she hasn't fought in 3 years. I believe she's just been working on her striking game and sharpening her overall tools, and I think that's going to pay dividends for her. I like Talita Nogueira against Marloes Coenen here. I think the second it hits the mat, Marloes is going to be a little surprised. Marloes, 95% of her fights in MMA, she had the grappling advantage, but that is not the case here. I believe Talita Nogueira, the second she gets it down to the ground, she is going to take advantage of the declining Marloes Coenen, and she will submit her in the first round. So, I'm not sure what the odds are going to be. I think they're going to be relatively even odds, and when it comes to betting, I believe at even money, Talita Nogueira is absolutely worth it. Even maybe as a slight favorite, like a minus 110, minus 120, absolutely worth it. Hopefully I can get some dog money on her. That might be the case. Maybe the bookies just didn't do their research on her and just have that much faith in Marloes Coenen. But I do like Talita Nogueira here despite the layoff. First round submission. And next up, the co-main event of the evening. Syed Awad, 19-8, taking on Brennan Ward, 13-4. At 170 pounds. So Brennan Ward is an absolute crazy man if you don't know him. He just goes in there and finishes or gets finished, man. He's had 17 fights and only one went the distance, and that was like his third fight. He's gotten better since then, gotten more aggressive since then. And with that mentality to come get finished or finish, that's tough against Syed Awad. Syed Awad is a very tough task here. He's a lot more technical than Ward. He's got big power behind him. He knocked out Will Brooks in like 45 seconds, man. Syed Awad is no joke here. But I do believe this fight will end in the first round. It's a matter whether if Ward can land the big shot on Awad or if Awad can get that big counter. And I am going to go with the more technical fighter here. I am going to pick Syed Awad via first round KO. I think he's going to capitalize on Brennan Ward's sloppiness, and he will knock him out in the first round. And when it comes to betting, of course, anything could happen, so I'm not going to bet on either guy, but the play to consider here is does not go the distance or the under. But the pick is Syed Awad, first round KO. And finally, moving on to the main event of the evening. Love this fight, cannot wait. Liam McGeary, 11-0, defending his title against Phil Mr. Wonderful Davis, 16-3. Of course, for that 205-pound strap, man. I had such a good time breaking down this fight. This is such a good, fun matchup, man. I mean, how often can we say Phil Davis in a fight is a fun matchup? This is just, the styles clash so well. I mean, everybody knows what Phil Davis is going to do. He's going to go in for those takedowns, but when Liam McGeary's on his back, that is arguably where Liam McGeary is the most comfortable, man. I mean, Phil Davis has some incredible submission defense, but Liam McGeary has some incredible guard work. I mean, this is so tough. I mean, even if he doesn't submit Davis, he can win a decision just off his back alone like he did to Emmanuel Newton. Very tough to call. And if Phil Davis can't get Liam McGeary down to the ground, and I'm sure that will happen at least one round, there will be at least one round where Liam McGeary can keep the fight standing. And Liam McGeary is a far superior boxer. Obviously 6'6", he's going to have that big reach advantage. I think Liam McGeary could piece Phil Davis up on the feet. I have a hard time seeing him finish Davis on the feet, and I have a hard time seeing Davis finish McGeary on the ground. The only way I can see a finish here is possibly Liam McGeary, pulling off something in his guard, like a triangle or an armbar, but this is such a tough fight to pick. I'm still struggling with it, but I think Phil Davis, being the more experienced fighter, he's seen it all, man. I am gonna go with Phil Davis via 49-46 decision. I just think, also another thing. Despite Liam McGeary being younger in the game, he is the older fighter and he is the slower fighter, and I think Phil Davis is gonna capitalize on that and grind McGeary out, man. It's gonna be a long night for Liam McGeary, in my opinion. So Phil Davis decision is the pick. When it comes to betting, I would recommend staying away from this fight, betting on either guy. I mean, unless Liam McGeary is some huge underdog, like plus 200, plus 220, I would recommend staying away from it. Betting on Phil Davis is risky business. With 5 rounds for Liam to hit a possible submission, that'd be a huge sweat, man. But no bets on this fight for me, absolutely, unless Liam is a huge underdog. But oh, and also if you can get like a good prop price on a Phil decision via decision, maybe like if you could get a good price on that, wouldn't hate you for it. I'm gonna stay away. But that's gonna be it, man. That is my pick, is a Phil Davis decision. This is a fun main card. That's what it's all about. This main card is just full of fun, man. So that's all I got for you guys, man. If you made it this far through the video, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for watching. Please follow me on Twitter at MMAKelton, and do not be afraid to hit me up. Chime in on the things I tweet. You can call me out, call me a stupid dick, say I don't know what I'm talking about. You can agree with what I'm talking about. We can have an educated conversation. Whatever you want, man. Hit me up, man, and subscribe and like the video. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the fight.